Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, it's Ivy Slater, and welcome back to this episode of Her Success Story. Today, I'm really excited to have this guest with me. I have to tell you, so the listeners who have been listening for a while know that my background is in dance and that I'm a big arts person because of it. I grew up as a dancer. I grew up in the New York City area, love the arts. So if you think this interview is for you, ladies and gentlemen, it's for me. I am so excited to meet this woman and get to know her better. Kristina Newman-Scott is the newly appointed president of BRIC, a 40-year-old multi-disciplinary arts and media organization in Brooklyn, New York. It's a major incubator and presenter of Brooklyn arts and media makers. She is the first immigrant and first woman of color to serve in this position. Previously, Kristina served as the Director of Culture and State Historic Preservation Officer for the State of Connecticut, Director of Marketing, Events, and Cultural Affairs for the City of Hartford, Director of Programs at Boston Center for the Arts, and Director of Visual Arts at Hartford's Real Arts Ways.
A lot.
I can go on and on about Kristina's background, her knowledge, but you could read about that in the show notes. Let me introduce you, Kristina. Thank you for running out of a meeting and joining me here today on Her Success Story.
Hello, it's so exciting to be with you. Thank you for having me on.
So, my first question, I'll be honest, listeners, we usually have questions and stuff. I'm telling you, this is all about me. I have a laundry list of questions I want to know about Kristina. So were you always into the arts? Was this a passion, or did this how did it start?
So it's interesting. I, when I was younger, when I was in high school, I studied art because it was one of the subjects you had to do. And it was high school in Kingston, Jamaica, where I was born and raised. And I didn't realize that I had a fascination for or an interest in art really fully till when I left high school and started to do college work in Jamaica. There's some interesting noise that you might hear, Ivy, and we have a glass blowing studio above my head. So it's a very interesting building. The sounds are very interesting here. However, so I found out that I really loved the arts more deeply the more and more I moved away from it. And the more my parents pushed me into accounting, I was like,
We should raise children who go into the professions, and we know they'll be able to take care of themselves.
Yes, exactly. And so my parents had me on an accounting track, and I realized fairly quickly that was not the track for me. And I went to them and said, I am no longer going to do this. I would like to pursue going to art college. And they lost their mind and I could see the mini explosions happening. And they did not like this at all. In any event, long story short, they realized I was pretty serious about it because I left and got a job and paid for night college to prepare my art portfolio, got into art college, and they had to come on board. And they did.
So when did you come into the States, and how did that transition happen for you?
So I moved full-time. I was a resident of the States growing up, but I moved full-time to live in the States in 2005. My husband actually moved way before with his family, and we met together in the arts in Jamaica. He's a musician. Well, he was at the time. And we moved together to Connecticut, where he was raised after leaving Jamaica in 2005. And I started working in the arts as a coordinator at this amazing multi-disciplinary arts organization, and from there really grew my curatorial muscle and became a curator, and got a chance to work with amazing visual and performing artists. And that was kind of the start of my arts journey in the United States, and that led to other exciting work from Hartford at Real Art Ways to Boston Center for the Arts, and then this quite interesting segue into government and arts after Boston.
So what was that transition like, moving into government and arts? Because, you know, it's almost like church and state. They don't really get along.
Yep. It was quite different, to say the least. You know, you come in and you're all excited. You think that your, you know, creativity, you think about the potential of arts and impact on community and all these wonderful things. And you quite quickly get pulled right into spaces that you had never imagined, in terms of just how people think about development, how people think about education, issues that mayors face every day, frontline issues around everything from housing to literacy, right? So it was really good training for me. While it was very different and quite jarring for the first year, it was a wonderful way for me to start to consider the potential impact of arts and culture on these issues, and on what some consider kind of your bread and butter issues in small communities, especially like Hartford. So that was fantastic. And that ultimately, some of those learnings ultimately led me to my position as the first immigrant woman of color to run arts for the state of Connecticut.
So transition. So you've been at BRIC a short period of time. So you moved from Connecticut to Brooklyn.
Yes. Connecticut to Brooklyn.
Welcome to New York.
Yeah. It's been great. I've been here 16 months, and I used to be in New York a lot for studio visits with artists, but by no means that is nothing compared to living in a place like Brooklyn. So it definitely, you know, I thought I lived in an urban city in Hartford, but no, you know, that's the pacing is like, you know, it's so different. And you know this, you're a New Yorker. There's nothing compared to the New York pace.
And, you know, for listeners who are not from the New York area, let me just share a little background. Brooklyn, New York, in the last bunch of years, I can't tell you exactly how long, has become the fastest developing. The amount of building, restructuring, gentrifying, arts programs, et cetera, it has a pulse in and of itself.
Yeah.
So you didn't just move into New York, you moved into like a bubbling volcano.
Absolutely.
Zone.
It's like the epicenter of cool culture, you know, and the wonderful thing about BRIC, and why I moved for BRIC, was because we're an organization that has long history in this community for 41 years. So before Brooklyn was a brand, when all of the folks that had lived here and done a lot of the hard work to ensure that our culture was and continues to be vibrant, BRIC is very much a part of that story. And so that's really something that I'm committed to, that commitment to, you know, really creating space for people that are culture creators, but to feel rooted in something, so that we don't start getting swept up too much in the hype of what is the brand of Brooklyn, right? Because brands come and go, but when you are rooted in something that's much more deep, which is connection to each other and culture, that's going to prevail and be long, you know, it's going to be around for the long run.
So share a little bit about BRIC itself.
Yeah. So we are a multi-disciplinary arts organization focused on 3 distinct areas: visual arts, performing arts, and media. And we like to think of our work in 3 ways, which is BRIC Learn, which is lifelong learning in visual, performing, and media. And that's, you know, we're in 40 public schools. We bring arts education to schools that might not have the resources to focus on arts. We do training for thousands of people a year that come to BRIC and to our partner sites in partnership with the Brooklyn Public Library to learn to do everything from documentary filmmaking to marketing on their cell phones to, you know, all of these media skills. We incubate and educate also people who have been incarcerated, and young men predominantly between the ages of 18 and 21, and teach them media skills and help them re-enter the workforce. And so there's education is a core component within the 3 disciplines. And then, so that's BRIC Learn. And then we have what we call BRIC Lab, That's where we incubate these voices. That's where we give time, resources, and space. So that could be artists in residence in the summer in our facilities that are doing installation or painting work, and they need access to studios, and we align them with curatorial visits, and we give them professional development. It could mean residency and workshop space for performing artists who want to unpack an idea. So it's not about a final performance as much as it is a workshop. And it's also about incubating media artists. And so we have scripted series on our television stations. So we're in about 550,000 homes in the borough because we're the public access provider for the borough of Brooklyn. So media is...
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
I know, most people don't. So what makes us unique is that when we say that we also do media, it's not that we just work with filmmakers or people that are doing media work. We actually are mandated to present media and to invest in media skills in our community. And so we do that with that incubation work. So that's BRIC Learn and BRIC Lab, and then BRIC Live. We present. We do amazing performances in Prospect Park as part of Celebrate Brooklyn, which is our long concert series, 41 years old. We do...
And that goes on in the summer months,
summertime from June to August. It's fantastic. And then we present, so we consider ourselves a presenter on the stage, on the screen, and in the galleries. And so we're universal in that way, where it's BRIC Learn, BRIC Lab, BRIC Live. And so in that way, we really think holistically about the artist.
So tell me, in your journey, Kristina, as a woman, what has been some of the challenges that you've now navigated? And, and I don't ask this question for the drama component. I ask it because as we navigate challenges, there's such learning lessons behind it.
Right. Well, I will say that the challenges often came with opportunities, right? Because everything is
an opportunity.
An opportunity. And so
opportunity is everywhere.
Yeah. I think being a woman in a cultural space is fairly common, right? Data has shown us that over 65%, especially in the museum world, of employees are women. So yay, we're doing really well. However, leadership, less so by far, is female, right? And so one, being a female in a leadership role, being a brown female in a leadership role, being an immigrant brown female in a leadership role. And so some of the challenges there have really come from folks' preconceived ideas about female leadership, preconceived ideas about people that come from other countries and their understanding or perspective. It's just these stereotypical notions of what who I am as a person, without offering the opportunity for me to just introduce myself in a way that one might with anybody else. So I think some of those have been challenges, but at the same time, in every role that I've had, I've made sure to create space with people to bring different voices to the table, to create more space for additional seats at the table, so that we are diversifying the voices out there, so that in many different ways. And so, I have stories from when people would say, "It's so lovely to meet you. We're trying to build up the African American base in Juneteenth. So if you ever want to host something, let us know." Well, out the gate, they've made a lot of assumptions with that question, right? And it wasn't a person of color that was asking me that, but there was a lack of curiosity about who I even was as a person. And so there's a lot of that. And I'm sure you have stories yourself that you can talk about being a female leader as you are.
Absolutely. And I will say, the listeners who follow, I have shared some quite stories in being a young leader back in the day in a very male-dominated world. And whenever we are different, or we're at the forefront, and we are leading, a movement, leading the change in a movement, we have this unique ability to actually see clearly through people. And I used to say, it's not that they don't have a good heart,
right?
It's that they don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So here's a window of opportunity of education.
Right. Yep, I completely agree. And my leadership style is pretty horizontal. It's not vertical. And I believe that I am never the smartest person in a room. And I really enjoy leaving space for others to be part of the conversation and journey. My mother always says one thing, which I fundamentally live by: even when we learn and we give people the opportunities to be educated, right? That when people show you who they are, believe them, right? And so you direct your energy where you think you'll really get a good return on it.
Yeah. So in the next thing, what has been some of the surprises in this journey? Because you've had an amazingly and fascinating journey in a career path.
Well, that, I learned pretty early in my government life that logic and common sense is not the driving force for decision making, right? And so
you need to tell us more about that one.
So I was beating my head against the wall when I was working with a few people, and I was like, but that why would you put money towards that? That doesn't make sense. Like, I could tell that that's not going to do what we want it to do. And I got the best advice ever, where a senior government leader was like, Kristina, if you keep thinking that like logic and common sense will be the thing that's going to guide this conversation, you will never succeed. Politics is not about logic. It's not. And so stop fighting that battle. And honestly, I got more done by figuring out ways to work around and getting exactly what we all wanted than bumping my head against, we had many conversations, bumping my head against leadership that wanted to very specifically do something that just didn't make sense. It was quite interesting to me. It was like a light bulb moment where I was like, but I thought it was about common sense. I thought people wanted to know what was like going to happen. I thought they wanted advice, but that's not true.
So
all the time.
It's so funny, because from what I do, and in the biggest to smallest companies I work with, they're like, oh my God, I knew that. That's so logical. That makes such sense, or such common sense. And right. I say most of what I do is about common sense.
Right.
And it's just that we're so busy leading our lives, our businesses, our careers with blinders on, moving straight forward, that we forget to look at the peripheral vision, or the full circumference, and we forget and we lose the common sense ability. It's
so true. That's absolutely right.
So
holistic.
That holistic, that circular view.
Yes.
So listeners, if you only knew, Kristina and I have the advantage of having a little video going on between the two of us as we record the audio. So we're both sitting here making circles of one another, saying, yes, holistic and circular and visual and all those things.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about BRIC moving forward. We're starting a new decade in 2020.
Yes.
It's an exciting time. It's an organization that's been around over 40 years. What do we have coming forward when we're 50?
Wow. Well, that is the $1 million question, Ivy. So we have just completed, in my first year, I worked with the team here to complete a new strategic plan. And it re-articulated our mission. We, for the first time in 40 years, articulated a vision, which everyone felt really throughout our history, but we didn't say out loud. So it was quite fantastic to have the opportunity to do that at this time. And we're saying out loud what our values are. And this is very much what I'm calling the BRIC Manifesto, because I want to take that word back that's been so negatively charged recently and put positivity back into it. So this is the team's playbook, right? Why we show up. It's not about the what that we do as much as it is the why and the meaning and the impact. And so we are looking forward to, for me as a new leader, it's very important for me to take 5 steps back and look at our infrastructure, look at my people. You know, we have a saying in Jamaica, you can't learn to dance abroad before you learn to dance ayad, which means, and you're a dancer, how can you go and teach somebody else something if you don't know how to do it yourself, and if your house isn't in order? So BRIC is a fantastic house that's been in order in many different ways across its through its legacy. But that being said, it's so exciting for me to come from the background that I have to really take a moment to spend with my team, for us all to level set, reset, come together, for them to be heard, and for us to get on the same page about how we want to get to where we're going together, rather than create a plan that I hand to them and say, that's what you're doing, go do it, right? So that's very much the work I've spent my first year doing, and I'm guided by an amazing board. And, you know, we are leaning into our work in media. We're leaning into our work in visual and performing. And one of the things that I actually want to challenge, even though this is a nonprofit, is the fact that we really do need to be more artist-centered. What do artists need above and beyond showcasing their brilliance? How do we make sure that we shift the argument to talking about them as a true sector? They are economic development drivers. Arts is not nice, it's necessary. It's a necessity, right? It's much bigger than a nicety. And so the conversation I'm very interested in, and BRIC is very interested in, is how do we make sure that we're shifting the dialogue around the necessity of places like BRIC. And when you talk about economic development here or nationally, what you'll see is most people are looking for areas that are culturally vibrant. And it's the artists that come and do that, but they're the first to get kicked out. And so I definitely want to make sure that we prioritize artists above and beyond their practice. We need to do that.
So, goodness, that leaves me, I have to say, a bit speechless, because you're right, the arts are not a choice.
Yeah.
It is, and it's not just about culture, and there's huge economic benefits of the arts.
Oh, 100%. New York State alone has I think it's, I can look it up right now, but it's like the economic impact of arts and culture on the state of New York is, I think, 90 billion or something like that. It's a large number, but it is higher. The bigger point is that it's more impactful than shipping, retail, warehousing, construction, and transportation.
And on that note, because that is, that will be in the notes, that belongs a huge highlight. I have one last question.
All right.
So what do your parents have to say about an arts career today?
Oh my gosh. Well, they went from being not supportive to showing off to their friends, I can tell you that. And who would know that being a painter in an art college would have led me to all the places that I was able to get to. And I think it's fundamentally because I was allowed to, and I actually forced my parents to listen to me in some way, to believe in my creative voice and spirit. Because even if you don't turn out to be an artist, your future is that much brighter because you know that you're a creative problem solver. So I think they're pretty excited about where I ended up.
And that is a huge, huge asset. It's a huge asset. What you're saying is about the creative problem solver. One of the reasons I could do what I do today is because I approach business from a creative and outside point of view, where everybody is looking at the spreadsheets I'm drawing. Right.
And you're problem solving while you're doing it too. And you're thinking very much about the angles and the in-between spaces. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And we don't prioritize that enough.
Exactly. So how can our listeners find out more about you and about BRIC, Kristina?
Well, you go to our website at www.briccorg.org. artsmedia.org. We have some fantastic music concerts coming up at BRIC House downtown on Fulton Street. We're at 647 Fulton Street. And I am here every day, Monday to Friday. And so our building is open. Come and check us out. We have phenomenal exhibition space, studio space, and just really amazing events. And so I want you to come visit, come and see us.
So for the local people, head over to BRIC Space. For the people who are traveling to New York and you want to check Brooklyn out, which is that happening part of New York City these days, you want to check out BRIC. In the interim, check it out online. Everything is in the show notes, the links, and how you can connect with Kristina and BRIC. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It has been absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you, Ivy, for doing this program and what you do to highlight the voices of women across our country. Thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you. Listeners, please remember to leave a note. We want to know what you want to hear. Leave a review. We're always interested. And share. If you've been impacted by an interview that meant something to you, please share it out there. Let it mean something to others. Thanks for joining us here today. See you next time at Her Success Story.